Hey everyone, this is Ryan with the homesteadconsultant.com. Today I'm in my chicken coop because I wanted to show you how I make free compost that is super nutrient dense and I don't ever have to turn it. So let me show you how I do that. Before we get too deep into this video, I wanted to show you how quality and how rich this compost is. You can see this is almost entirely turned into soil already, and I haven't had to do any digging, any turning, any effort into this whatsoever. So I'm using wood chips in my chicken coop here. You can see this area is covered in wood chips. This area behind me is covered as well. This whole chicken run is covered in wood chips. And beyond making amazing compost, there are several additional benefits. One is that we're actually making it so the chicken coop and run don't smell. So if you've ever heard about the complaint that most people have with chickens, it's that they smell. That's the biggest complaint I hear. And this actually reduces, mitigates, and actually eliminates smells in the chicken coop and run. And I'll show you kind of how as I go through the process of how this gets made. The next benefit is we have super healthy, happy chickens. When we put wood chips down in their coop and run, that actually creates a situation where the ground is covered with an absorbent material, so we don't get the nasty, muddy, soupy, poopy mess every time it rains. So this area stays relatively dry, and when it rains, it evaporates quickly, and we just never really get the mud and nastiness in here, unless for some reason I'm not able to get the amount of wood chips that I need into this area. So an additional benefit to this system is that the high nutrients that trees make or take up are really important and actually break down to their base elements. So imagine this ash tree here, which is actually dying off at the moment, was turned into wood chips, and I put that into my chicken run. The wood chips from this tree have high nutrient value because the roots from the tree are actually getting down deep into the soil and mining minerals. So they're bringing up minerals from the rock layers and from the deep soil, and even from potentially underground aquifers. In our case, we've got a spring right down there. You can kind of see that running. This tree is pulling up all those nutrients, and as it gets turned into wood chips, and as those wood chips then break down into the compost, we're getting all those nutrients and all the minerals that are being pulled up from way down in the earth back up on the soil. So our compost that we're making is coming from deep down within the earth. So we're actually using nature to provide high mineral content that will end up in our garden, that will end up in our vegetables, and then that will end up in our food and even in the chicken's food, so the eggs will be more dense. So the added mineral content from the wood chips is extremely significant in the regeneration of the soil. My girls wanted to be a part of this too. And what's the bunny's name?
Patches.
So one of the important things to keep in mind is to understand the chemistry of how these wood chips break down into Taco, thanks Taco. How these break down into their more base elements. So wood chips are primarily carbon, and because of the way they get chopped up, you have large amounts of end grain where the chicken poop actually, the nitrogen and the ammonia in the chicken poop actually ends up bonding to the carbon in these wood chips. And so that does a few things. One is that it stops the smells. So the ammonia is primarily where the smells are coming from, and getting that to bond with this wood chip is significantly helpful in reducing or eliminating smells in the chicken coop. And the second benefit here is that nitrogen and ammonia, as it bonds with the carbon, actually breaks this apart and turns it back into soil. So once the nitrogen and ammonia bond, which also happens because the chickens scratch this and turn it over, the material eventually breaks down and becomes this beautiful compost that I've got like a foot deep layer of in my chicken run. So every year I come in and I pull out the compost and I put that in my garden. And so the only work that I'm doing to this, I'm not turning it, I'm not doing any other compost work to it. I'm just taking, I'll sift this through a small sifting device into a wheelbarrow and take it over to my garden or to my orchard that I have down here. And then basically I'm able to use that immediately on my garden. So in addition to all these things, I also get eggs out of the whole deal, because the chickens, not only are they producing the compost, they're now producing eggs. So I get an entire closed loop system that helps me build and regenerate soil and make a much healthier garden, much healthier chickens, and that's Beans the chicken. So that is how I get compost on my property. It's worked very, very well for us, and I highly encourage people to do this. Even if you're using other composting methods and appreciate those, you can keep doing that and do this as a beneficial add to your chicken coop and run.